Hello, welcome to a new edition of our show, Money Means Business. And as we always say, business means money. Stability in business means a lot of money. And of course, during the hard times of the coronavirus pandemic that is weakening all economies and challenging all economies, well, development is a challenge and a lot of work must be done for that. Well, we are working hard in Egypt here. Talking about Egypt, we're working very hard. We've been working very hard, the government exerting strenuous efforts in order to achieve the supposed to be achieved growth rate. And we do have reports on that by the IMF and other monetary institutions hailing the growth rate of the economy. Well, first let me introduce our guest for tonight. We have with us Mr. Khaled Abouhaib, business developer. I'm not going to say about other activities and other positions. Okay. So, since, we're talking about developing everything here, so business developer. Welcome here. It's always a pleasure having you.
It's been a pleasure always having you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. We have a lot to talk about, actually.
Sure.
And starting with the development that we're talking about.
Yes.
And the IMF special reports about Egypt.
Yes.
Well, I remember a couple of years back when the pandemic, started attacking everybody. And of course, there were curfews, there were lockdowns and all that. And I was just wondering and asking you, well, how are we going to fare, economically speaking, and everything in this pandemic? And what are we going to be doing? And you said that we're going to get out of it stronger and things are going to get better, which is really, really strange. It was strange, how are we going to be doing this when, there was the lockdowns and all that? Well, we'll answer that and talk about it. First, we have to have a look at the IMF reports, and then we'll come back starting our show.
Great.
Station to us. Go away. We have this report.
In light of the economic successes achieved by Egypt during the year 2021, and in continuation of this approach, the International Monetary Fund raised its expectations for the Egyptian economy by 0.4% for the fiscal year 2021 and 2022 to 5.6%, and the same for the following fiscal year. Meanwhile, the fund reduced its forecast for the global economic growth in 2022 by 0.5% to 4.4%, from its October 2021 expectations due to the lower expectations for the growth of the two largest economies in the world, America and China. The IMF raised its forecast for the growth of the economies of the Middle East and North Africa by 0.3% to 4.4% in 2022. It also expected that the region's growth to decline in 2023 to 3.4%. The fund kept its forecast for the growth of the Saudi economy in 2022 at 4.8%, while it will drop significantly to 2.8% in 2023. The fund fixed its forecast for the growth of the Egyptian economy in 2022 and 2023 at 5.6%. Dr. Mohamed Maït, Minister of Finance, confirmed that the International Monetary Fund's announcement that it raised its estimates of the growth rate of the Egyptian economy in 2022 to 5.6% instead of 5.2% last October is a new testimony of confidence in the solidity of the Egyptian economy and its ability to cohesion and withstand challenges, globalization, and the gradual recovery from the corona crisis. At a time when his estimates for the growth of the global economy fell by 5%, Egypt becomes the only oil-importing country that achieves positive growth. He explained that the economic reform program contributed to strengthening the structure of the national economy, mitigating the severity of the shock, and containing the negative effects of the corona pandemic. He explained that the economic reform program contributed to strengthening the structure of the national economy, mitigating the severity of the shock, and containing the negative effects of the corona pandemic. In the same context, Ahmed Kojak, Deputy Minister of Financial Policies and International Development, said that Egypt is the only country in the Middle East and Africa that has retained the confidence of all three global rating institutions, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch, during one of the most difficult periods in the economy. the world under the pandemic. He also pointed out that this report confirms the confidence of IMF experts in the performance of the national economy in light of the government's increasing interest in opening new development horizons that contribute to strengthening the participation of the private sector in development projects. This will help provide new job opportunities leading to higher growth rates. In light of the uncertainty in light of supply chain disruptions, fluctuations in oil prices, and fears of the emergence of the corona pandemic, the Director General of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, announced that the fund's expectations for global economic growth will likely decrease due to the emergence of the new coronavirus Omicron. The fund stated that Omicron threatens a setback in the initial recovery path, while high inflation rates will continue for a longer period than expected. The fund believes that the advanced economies raising interest rates to combat inflation rates may generate risks to financial stability and capital flows to emerging and developing markets, focusing on the risk of increasing debt levels significantly in the past 2 years. She added that monetary policy in many countries may need the strict path to reduce inflation pressures. In its report on the outlook for the global economy, the International Monetary Fund lowered its forecast for the U.S. economic growth for the current year at a rate of 1.2% from last October's forecast to 4%. The fund attributed this to disruptions caused by the pandemic, which led to disruptions in supply chains. Meanwhile, financial pressures from real estate developers lowered China's growth forecast from 5.6% to 4.8%.
We're back again with our guest, Ms. Khaled Bouhayeb, business developer, and we've been talking, and the report talked about that too, was the growth rate in Egypt, the international reports about growth rate in Egypt and how we are achieving that. We just were talking about this in the future, but then we're talking in the present time. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, and then talk about Omicron and the derivatives and all the other things, that are facing us and faced us during the last couple of years, that faced every government and were hard on other governments. But the wise governance and leadership of the government could steer the country out of lots of problems. And when we talked before, as I said before, the report, you said, well, we'll go stronger and we'll achieve growth rate. And we were just thinking, how are we going to do that when the pandemic, the COVID-19, is hitting every country? There are lockdowns and things are not promising for many countries. How is that?
Okay, it's always a pleasure to be your host here on your show, and I wish all your audience to be safe and getting well. And, if we go back, if I remember correctly, on March 2020, we were together on your show saying and going through the Bloomberg report, which they were almost ready to announce Egypt is bankrupt. And they said it is because there is no tourism. The workers who work in the Gulf area going back to the country, and the Suez Canal is to the lowest, the gas is not exported, and 22 months to the date, here we're sitting again at the same place, same studio, your good show, saying, wow, the International Monetary Fund is saying that our economy has a development of 5.6%, and this is never heard about. I think this is time to celebrate, because this Egypt is the only, how they say it, the oil importer country which have a development. It's really mandate salute to the administration and to all the Egyptians who worked hard through the pandemic. So from negative, you can put any number, it's bankrupt, to right now plus 5.6, that is extraordinary. Why this happened? Definitely, speaking about the percentages and how the growth of the economy, it is always about the future, but it is built on observation of what's currently happened and what happened in the past. So the investment which was done through the pandemic time and the well management of the resources which brought us today to this 5.6 growth from the International Monetary Fund. Saying when everyone was talking about the lockout and we were building roads, we were talking about high-speed trains.
Yeah.
We were talking about new logistic routes. We were talking about open to Africa. And people at that time, the world or the deep state, were thinking that it's almost, are we not living on the same planet that they are? Things are shutting down. But we had belief in ourselves and in our administration, and we passed through it. And now after 22 months, we are where we are. Mm-hmm. Taking decision is the key point. Like for instance, you can ask for money. People can give you money to invest in your country, to invest in your project, to invest in your property. But at a certain point, it all depends on you taking the right decision on the right time and the courage to take it, and the will of the people who are working with you. I always says that we are almost like in a war.
Yeah.
Okay? Because all the surroundings were against us. War. It is.
Exactly, as you say, it's not, you know, we are. It's not, we have stability and everything in there, everything is stable, everything is working, but we've got challenges everywhere and agendas that are attacking us, you know, from within and out.
True. And because our presidency, God bless him, is not rational, doesn't take rational decisions. We have been tested in a lot of occasions. We could have easily been pulled to the war in Yemen. Definitely. We could have easily been pulled to Sudan.
Exactly.
Just check the map of Egypt and check the borders. We could have been pulled to Libya, we could have been pulled to Sudan, we could have been pulled to Yemen, we could have been pulled to Palestine. Yeah. But we focused on ourselves and we spoke diplomacy, and that's why we are there. So money always go where stability is and where security is. So when the investors believe that you have a system and he is secure and safe in your country and his money is safe and secure in your country, people will come and invest. Mm-hmm. And that is the result we are seeing and talking about right now. In the middle of all of this area, the MENA region, you call it, or the Middle East, the North of Africa, you call it whatever you want to call it. We are touch wood, and thanks God, we are the stablest country in the region. And we are the highest on return for any investor. So it is not a brainer to see all of this coming, and people want to invest heavily in Egypt. When you see the how can I say, the horizon is going, or the platform is going, and seeing in front of you that all of this roads, all of this logistics have been done. The restructure of the highways all over Egypt, and where they can go and where they can get connected. You can go from the port of Ain al-Sukhna or Suez, going to Awaynat with an access to Libya, two access going to Libya, one access going to Sudan
Yes.
and the middle of Africa. So there is something is being laid, and everyone who is watching Egypt can see, oh, why are they doing this? This is massive what they're doing. Not only that, now with the new program, which His Excellency President Sisi announced, the decent life for Hayat Karima for all the Egyptians. You're talking about over 350 billion pounds to be dispensed within 24 months. Mm-hmm. Do you know that 4,200 villages all over Egypt will have high-speed internet via the fiber optics? Yeah. They're gonna have sewage. They're gonna have pure water. They're gonna have health care. They're gonna have police stations. So you're gonna create 4,200 spots on the map, which the people use to migrate from it to the big cities. Now it's the time for the reverse migration. Mm-hmm. I can go back to my town, to my village, and as if I am in Cairo. Mm-hmm. I have the high-speed internet. My kids have the school systems working over there, have the health care. So why I don't go back to my village and start over there? Mm-hmm. This will automatically bring the people to go out of Cairo and invest in their hometowns and bring investments and projects to the small villages and towns all over Egypt. Plus, on the other hand, with this high-speed internet and with the fiber optics cables all over Egypt, you're just creating a mega internet.
Yeah.
Okay, which means that any place in Africa asking for data storage, we are ready for it. As if it is not only one computer, you have or only one data center. No, you have thousands and thousands and places to save that. So this is, I don't want to say manipulation, but this is a very big step to the future of telecommunication, which has been happening, and we really will take the advantage of being the first in Africa to have this mega infrastructure, especially in the telecommunication. And with this happening, okay, if I want to go now and build a factory, or I want to, for instance, if we take the mineral resources like in in Upper Egypt or in the desert or New Valley, so people used to transport the ore next the raw materials to Cairo or next to Cairo and manufacture them here and go all over that to export. Now over there we can do all of this and start exporting. I will not be surprised that next year we can see double or triple this number, because the evidence in front of us is saying that this is the direction we are heading.
But you know, it's also worth mentioning that we can be doing this, and during the pandemic, some countries had problems definitely, and then they just fell short of exporting olives or oranges, whatever. Like we took. It's good that we exploited that shortage, and we rose, and we were there working on this, and our produce just went abroad.
Yes, absolutely, and we took, and because of the population and the bigger population we have, all of this was absorbed locally. Then after that, started to be manufactured and started to be exported. The number of exports right now of the fresh produce and export now, we are over I don't remember exactly 13 or 15 billion US dollars extra in the export, because of all what we're talking. Also, the government or the administration they said that they gonna open or 15 industrial hubs
Yeah.
and build them. Till now, 13 of them were opened, and one of them is here next to the on the highway of Suez, which is Ruwaiki. It is turning out to be the biggest leather industry area in the Middle East. So despite it was in the middle of Cairo
Yeah.
and the bad smell, and now they are out over there, they are manufacturing, they are ready for export, they have their own expos, they have their own shops. So 13 centers like that over the country has been done, which is these workers or these manufacturers, these are the real core of the economy, because these are the ones who absorb the working class people, and that's why we start to see the number of unemployment is going down.
Yeah.
And also because of our workers right now, the handyman, everybody's a handyman, from a doctor to the person who is a builder. Like the last agreement which was done with Libya,
Yeah.
that 3 million of the workforce in Egypt is going to be migrated or work in Libya. There is currently, when we're talking, there is shortest in the qualified labor. Why? Because imagine 4,200 villages and towns, the work are going in them at the same time. It was not this area, then this area, then that area. No, 4,000 all over Egypt are opening jobs. They want to redo the sewage or rebuild the town, putting infrastructure, putting electricity, water, you name it, schools, in 4,200 places.
Yeah.
So this opened a very big demand on the handy people
Yeah.
who can do these jobs. That right now in Cairo, the prices are doubled and tripled because they are going to these places to work. These are example of the kind of project which can absorb this labor force and definitely taking down the percentage of unemployment. The time where you used to see the youth and the younger gentlemen sitting on the cafes doing nothing is getting over. You go, you work, you want to work in North Egypt, you want to go in South Egypt, you go anywhere, there is work right now. But sitting in your home or wherever it is, it's not there.
Yeah. Also, one problem before we go for a break, there is, the problem that is always facing us here, the growing population that grows drastically in Egypt. President Sisi addressed this and talked about this, but there are certain strata in society, the lower strata, they just, for different reasons, have high growth rate. Actually, they just, there's this problem with boom, children's boom, booming in Egypt, very fast. But this is, definitely will affect any development and any growth rate, whenever there is a growth rate that is, the increase in the population swallows that.
I do agree with you, and this has been the problem for Egypt for the past 30, 40 years. But I think, again, as you see, I'm always optimistic. In the middle of the pandemic or in the beginning of it, I told you we're going to go through it and we're going to thrive.
Yeah.
I think it's time to see what a country like China started to do with its population.
Mm-hmm.
These population, a lot of them used to work in the Arab countries for building, especially in the construction area. Unfortunately, the past administrations didn't look into educating them and getting them ready for the international workforces, and they were substituted by people from Asia. So currently, wherever you go right now, there's been initiative to educate the handy people on new techniques. I'll take an example right now, like what's going on right now from the NTRA regarding the telecommunication. They are giving courses for whoever almost can read and write for 40 hours or 40 hours, 60 hours, to teach them the new technology. But it is a crashed course. They take it in the smart city, and they teach them how to weld the fiber optics, how to the fiber cables, what are the new accessories, because you can imagine all of these wires around you in your houses or in the streets, which used to be made by copper, is going to be changed.
Yeah.
A completely new technology, completely new equipment. So the NTRA created that institute, and they are having courses day and night, 8 hours in the morning and another shift at the night. So people who can work in the night can take in the morning. This is to graduate people who are introduced to this new technology. After this 60 hours course or 40-hour course, they take a certificate that they pass the beginner course of the knowledge of fiber optics. With that, they offer him a job immediately in the new administrative capital of Egypt. So this is how to counter and to challenge that with education and educating the people.
Yeah.
So when instead of leaving the kids in the elementaries and the middle schools, we can start to teach them how to be technical, like in Germany, like in Germany, for instance. So this population can be a gold mine for Egypt if they are really trained well, then export it.
No,
Yes,
exactly.
Especially what I'm going to say. Sometimes people doesn't like it, but the Egyptian IQ for any Egyptian, you take the kid when he goes in a class all over in Europe or in the States, you always find him smart than the others. So there is no doubt they can excel. We have a gold mine. Actually, not a challenge.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, we go for a short break, after which we'll be coming back, resuming our talk. Stay tuned to us. Don't go away.
The economic relations between the United Arab Emirates and Egypt reflect the strength and increase of cooperation between the two countries in all fields. Trade between the United Arab Emirates and Egypt succeeded in challenging the repercussions of the coronavirus pandemic by achieving an unprecedented growth rate in the first half of 2020. The Egyptian president stressed that his visit to the United Arab Emirates comes as a continuation of the process of close and distinguished relations that bind the two countries and their common destiny and future. One of the largest English banks announced that the solidity and resilience of the Egyptian economy that it touched in the face of various crises and the strength and stability of the banking sector in Egypt during the past years, which reflected its ability to deal with many crises and contain the repercussions, is a reason behind the decision to enter the Egyptian market at this stage. The British Bank said in a statement that thanks to the wise leadership of the Central Bank of Egypt represented in its strategies applied to enhance the solvency of banks operating in the Egyptian market and the effectiveness of management and governance of all types of risks, as well as high liquidity ratios, which reflected positively on the Egyptian economy as a whole. The Export Council for Food Industries announced that Egyptian dates exports in 2021 amounted to $52 million, achieving a growth rate of 21% compared to the exports of 2020 amounting to $43 million. The state of Indonesia also occupied the list of the most important countries importing Egyptian dates in 2021 with a value of $25 million, representing 47%, followed by the sister state of Morocco with a value of $20 million, representing 38%, and Malaysia with a value of $3 million, representing 5% of the total exports, and the number of countries importing Egyptian dates in 2021, about 59 countries. The International Goldman Sachs Foundation expected the Egyptian pound to continue to be strong and resilient against the dollar and major currencies during the current year 2022, and that there would be no significant declines for the Egyptian currency in the near term, despite the strong challenges faced by emerging economies with the repercussions of the corona pandemic remaining. Goldman Sachs, in its report, stated that the concern about the Egyptian currency during this year is exaggerated for 5 reasons, the most prominent of which is that the international reserves of foreign exchange at the Central Bank of Egypt are sufficient to maintain the pound at current levels, and the future outlook for the external sector is improving independently for any changes in exchange rates. It added that the benefits that may accrue to the current account for any depreciation in the currency will be limited, while the potential costs of large fluctuations in exchange rates could be huge, stressing that the depreciation of currencies is neither desirable nor inevitable in the near term, and the difference between the price of the pound, its fair value, is modest. The website CNN Travel published a report in which it monitored the most important tourist destinations around the world for travel lovers during the current year. The site indicated that Hurghada was among the top 10 tourist destinations, while Cairo was among the top 10 destinations in the world. The selection of Egyptian tourist destinations confirms the success of the Egyptian tourist destination and its ability to attract more tourists by making sure that they enjoy a unique tourist experience when they visit it. Minister of Trade and Industry Nivin Gema reviewed the performance indicators of Egyptian non-oil exports during 2021, as well as the sector's goals for 2022. She pointed out that some markets tended to rely on Egyptian products to replace the products of some traditional markets, with the high cost of shipping from those markets. She explained that in light of the targeted growth rates in the export sectors and assuming that global demand continues to grow by 10%, it is targeted to increase the value of Egyptian exports in 2022 to reach $40 billion with a growth rate of 25%. Minister of Trade and Industry announced that construction work is underway in the 100 factories for the production of finished leather products, noting that the completion rate in the region is currently 90%, as it is planned to be completed at the end of next February in preparation for putting it before investors. These came during the minister's inspection tour, as the tour included inspecting the expansions of the leather city in Rubeki and the area of completion of the 54 glue factories, in which the final finishing phase is being completed, as well as the area of completion of the tanneries for the rest of the beneficiaries of Major Ayun tanneries. And Minister also inspected the technology center is currently being redeveloped.
We're back again with our guest, Mr. Khalid Abouhay, business developer. Well, we were talking beforehand about, well, the different projects and what's going on, and the growth rate that is, really being realized. Very important thing is a project that you talked about before and said that this project would have changed everything in Egypt to the better.
Yes.
But it stopped for 30 years. And that was a big loss because other things, other problems emanated later on, or were created for Egypt later on that could have been, well, kind of cast aside if this project took place.
Yes, absolutely.
More details. We'd like to know that.
Absolutely. Yeah, what you just said is, you are 100% true, and it was always the project which can really change completely the what Egypt is.
Yes.
Before going and speaking about that project or that area of Egypt, let's talk or define the importance of the decision taking and the leadership, and taking the initiative and taking responsibility of what you're going to do. This is what we're talking about in the Toshka project, is no whatsoever less than the 10th of Ramadan, 6th of October war, not whatsoever less than the peace treaty with Israel, when President Sadat said, I'm going to Israel. This was courageous and took initiative from the president to go. What's happening right now is even much more tougher, because the Toshka project, which
And we do have actually here the map on TV.
yes,
So yeah, so the Toshka project is
The
an extremely important one.
yes, this Toshka project, this is the map which was supposed to be since the Ganzouri administration. Okay, and I'm so happy and pleased for His Excellency President Sisi when he took the initiative and the strong leadership to go to the place where people said this cannot be done, and he spoke about Dr. Ganzouri, God bless his soul, and how he was seeing what could be done in Egypt.
And then he was right, actually.
Definitely.
He was accused of doing the wrong thing. He was accused of doing something that is fruitless.
This is the deep state which we always talk about.
Yes.
When they see Egypt heading the right directions, they stopped it. When we were heading to do the 10th of Ramadan war, everybody said it's the end of Egypt. When the presidency said, oh, we're going to go to Israel and sign a peace treaty and this is going to be the last war, people said that he's a traitor, blah, 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 all of these things. Now, where we are and where everybody who was against us is. But this thing was done from inside, it is the deep state. If they couldn't face us, they go from inside. Right now, what President Sisi, His Excellency, said, this is the kind of project we're going to do for the future of Egypt. This is at least immediately 30 to 40% of Egypt population can move. And by the way, this is a river which is going here to just say it's going through the route from the old delta of the Nile. So we are not creating a new river.
That exists anyway.
It exists millions and millions of years ago. And when you go to the New Valley and you find it, you'll be surprised to find mud everywhere. From where did this mud come from? This is the old branch of the Nile. So when Ganzouri started this project, they said, oh, this is going nowhere, this is blah, 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 and we stopped it. And for 30 years, this project was put on hold and it was a no-go, and we started to hear, oh, what is Egypt's share of water in the Nile? We never heard about it. They started putting problems in the Nile for us. and oh, we need to revisit the amount of water Egypt can take. Who gave them that authority? All of this to stop that project. And when we go back, it was always the New Valley Governorate, the New Valley to be done. All of this, you can imagine putting a complete River Nile parallel to the old one, where we can move every governorate in Upper Egypt.
Yeah.
So we have new Asyut on that river. We can have new Sohag. We can use new Qina. We can, and the land over there is so fertile.
Yeah.
Because it is mud for millions and millions and millions of years. We're not here reclaiming desert.
Very rich land.
Very rich land. And when you go there, the apricot, for instance, over there is unheard about.
There's silt there, very rich with that.
Yes, and much more importantly,
Yeah.
most of this agriculture in this area can be all organic because it's away from the diseases in the Nile Valley, and it can absorb all of this population over there, new industries, new things. So again, great projects like this need strong leadership. And God bless our president. He is not he took that initiative and went over there, spoke about Tushka, and appraised His Excellency, God bless his soul, Dr. Ganzouri, just to say, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. And it was a clear message for the deep state within Egypt and outside. This is how we're gonna go, and challenging their plans in holding or controlling the Nile. Go to every word President Sisi said during his visit to Tushka and take it seriously, because wherever it's gonna happen, we're gonna go through this. Our enemies here right now is the deep state and whoever is surrounding us who doesn't like the goodwill to Egypt. Our enemy is not clear.
Yeah.
We're going to see him. We cannot see him. In 10th of Ramadan, when we crossed the canal, we knew that we have an enemy on the other side. Here, we don't know it. We're going to see some people coming up in the media, from the international media, from outside. Oh, this is going to do this. This is going. No. It is the right way to go. God bless our President Sisi. God bless him. May God guide him to the right thing to Egypt. This, we can talk about it hours and hours, how this can change completely the platform in Egypt and to the better. And we go back to what Dr. Farouk Elbaz was talking about, the reservoir of the water table. And this old Nile, if you go back, remember in the 70s and the 80s after Peace Treaty, and when he was talking to presidents, that the project is there. It is not a secret. And it is not a secret how this can start Egypt's wealth.
A quantum leap.
Yes,
definitely.
Okay, but our enemies this time are the deep state, are within, and people who are against the goodwill of Egypt.
Yeah.
This is the war we are fighting right now. And with the kind of leadership we have right now, and we all stand behind him and support him, we're gonna challenge this and we're gonna win. We won the past 22 months was not easy on Egypt. You can see if you take the picture of President Sisi 22 months ago, if you take the picture of Kamel al-Wazir, His Excellency Kamel al-Wazir, 22 months ago, and you see them now, wow, it's completely changed. It's very big and heavy effort, but it is in the right direction. God bless his soul. May God help him and guide him for the good of this country.
Definitely. You're talking about another project, the phosphate.
Yes.
You talked about this before.
Going about in the Tushka area and back again to the New Valley here.
Yes.
And during the first Ganzouri, when he was prime minister, I don't remember how many years, 15, 20 years ago, he again revisited the project of phosphate of Abu Tartur.
Yeah.
Abu Tartur and the New Valley, these two things, believe me, and I can prove it to you. These are the two things can change. We don't need any other resources. We can pay our debt immediately. Simple math. The United States of America exports
Yeah.
between 38 million to 42 million metric tons of phosphate
Yeah.
every year. Each ton is between $100 and $110.
Yes.
Why they never exported from Egypt?
Well, again, interests. Stopping, things that are not in the interests.
I'm honored through your show to tell everybody I'm the only one who broke that cartel against Egypt, and I was the only person who succeeded to export phosphate to the United States. They need it, they want it, but the cartel against Egypt
Yeah.
is humongous. Can you give me a reason why the railroad which Ganzouri did between Abu Tartur and the Red Sea port to export the phosphate was dismantled and stolen 3 times?
Well, it's clear, of course, the interest of some. But anyway, this is a very important subject, and we ran out of time. Good times fly very fast. Thank you for being with us. We'll have a special edition, actually, on this. As I come back from my leave, we'll have to just have an important talk about phosphate and all the conditions around it, what you did for that, and the importance of that with maps and all that.
Great about the phosphate. We had to put our lives on the line to do this shipment to the United States, and somebody has to take it and continue that trip so we can we have 1.5 billion metric tons confirmed. Multiply this by $100, tell me what debt in Egypt we can cover.
Definitely, definitely. Mr. Khaled Abu Haibi, thank you very much for being with us. It's always a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure having you, being here on your show. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody who's watching us. And until we meet again, God bless Egypt, God bless Egyptians, God bless our president, our army, our white army, and our police. And ادخلوا مصر إن شاء الله آمنين. Enter Egypt, God willing, safe from the Holy Quran and from the Holy Bible. Mubarak, Sha'bi Misr, blessed be Egypt, my people. I'm Nermin Nazim signing off. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye for now.